Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell. I'm here with my co-host, as always, Marky D, Mark Davison. Mark, how are you doing?
Hey, Matty, what's going on, man? I'm doing really well. It's kind of cold here in Australia again, which got a snap cold out of nowhere. But I'm doing awesome, and we've got people from the live chat already coming in. We got Rhino, Tool, George. I believe we have another few blokes in here. Snowman coming into the live chat. It's awesome being here on our Sunday morning. We have another player in the live chat, but he's talking about the Ratbirds, so we can't bring him up. I'm ready to go. I'm actually ready to jump into our show because I know you want to talk about it, and it's going to be part of our show. But it leads in from last week. We had a really controversial, I would say, topic near the end. Matty, what happened near the end?
So if anyone missed it, I should suggest that you go back, and it's about 4 minutes 50, I think it is, in the to go in last week's show. But I said something really controversial about a few players. I basically created my what the heck or my what the hell 5, and that caught everyone a bit off guard, particularly caught Mark off guard. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that today and who those players are. And, as the title of the show today is predictable or unpredictable, that is the question. We're going to cover off some of those players. We're going to cover off some predictions and part 2 of the show as well that we have for a couple of key players. We know it's very early to make predictions, so, for the teams. So we're really interested in sort of covering that from the players' perspective. But yeah, I feel like I dropped a bit of a bombshell. I was even getting hate in the comments all week on YouTube from a few people. But, such is life.
That happens. It always happens, It's what it is.
Well, that's it. And this is the thing, is that we're all entitled to our own opinions. That's what this is, whether we're the hosts of this show or whether you guys bring it up in the live chat, we're all entitled to our opinions. And, often Mark and I are very much what we like to call the homers, on this BTSC family, the homers. We're always up there for the Steelers no matter what, who wears the black and gold. Well, yeah, there are some players that we're not fans of. And I think this team has to be realistic. We haven't won a Super Bowl in a decade plus. We haven't progressed to the, second round of the playoffs in, however many years it is now, 7 or 8 or whatever it is. Like, let's be realistic on it. And depth is so important. When we said that, if you actually go back and listen to last week's show, we talked about, the role of, look at the NBA, for example. You can't have a star player at all 5 positions. I'm not suggesting that the Steelers need studs in all 53 positions as much as we'd like to wish that would happen. But we should expect a certain amount of serviceability from the guys that are in my what the heck 5. And yeah, I don't think they're the guys to deliver it, but that's just me. But Mark, was there anything that happened this week, for the Steelers that was particularly big news for you that you thought we should discuss with all our BTSC listeners?
It wasn't really big news, but it's just good to see the boys getting back in action. I watched a few videos of them at mini camp and then getting on the pads, and Najee and the fellas and then Samuels and those kind of guys running around with the rock and getting back to normality, I guess, with the football season. So it's with the mini camp now. It's just really good to see the players back in Heinz Field. Like this is the start. Like this is where the Super Bowl run starts. Pretty much, it starts in players turning up. Just imagine being a player and you haven't seen your friends or your teammates for a long time. And it's getting the band back together. It's just starting. We're leading into training camp, which gets really pretty physical. And then into the Hall of Fame game, the preseason, and then it's week 1 in Buffalo, and then it's ready to go. And we've got to make sure our team is on top of the money from there. But look, seeing Big Ben throw, some of the routes that the Juju and the guys are catching, it's just really good to see, like at that point. And for us, even down here in Australia, it's hard to catch. I don't know how you catch it sometimes. I go on YouTube and I read the articles on BTSC, or I go on Steelers.com, but it's hard to catch a few of these things because we don't have any really NFL media here. We do, but it's more skewed to the Cowboys, Patriots, Green Bay, stuff like that, and not so much Steelers. How do you get information or video footage of these camps?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm pretty much the same as you. Obviously, we'll look at all the articles on behindthestillcurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. But yeah, like a lot of social media stuff as well, the team website. Occasionally, like there'll be few other NFL around the NFL sort of sorts of shows. But yeah, it's really I look through their social media particularly because like we sort of give the Steelers a bit of stick around social media, and what they do in season. But yeah, they do put a lot of imagery out from that perspective. Some of the players put things out. And then obviously a lot of the beat reporters too, from guys like The Athletic and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, those sorts of guys put it out. So, I try to get across that. But the great thing is, and it's like what I say on Steelers War Room when I listen to a lot of different other podcasts for the NFL, the great thing is that as Steelers fans, as BTSC listeners, whether you're listening live or listening on audio, we've got it all there for you. We're either covering it in the shows or we're covering it on site. So you actually don't have to go and look at all those multiple sources. You can just go straight to us. Dave is keeping a pretty good tracker at the moment of things like OTAs and mini camps and what have you. So, go to those. It's all there for you. It saves you scrolling around, and that's what we care about because remember, all of us that sit in these, host chairs, we're all fans too. So a lot of the things that we find difficult as fans, we try and fix for everyone else. So that's one of the beauties about the BTSC family and platform, if you like, that is our articles, YouTube shows and audio shows. But Mark...
sorry, Matt, I was just going to say one last thing with the media. If you can't find anything to do with the Steelers, just go back onto YouTube and find a press conference from Coach Tomlin in 2014. Because they're pretty much the same. Every time he gets on there, I love the guy. I really do. He's one of my favorite coaches. But you put him into a press conference and you just hear him say the same things about getting the team together and just really rallying around the boys. And it's just, I put him on sometimes just to relax. He got that nice zen voice. But do you find that as well with Coach Tomlin? Like the hard thing for me, so I work in media and PR, as you know, Mark, like that's what I do professionally. So the funny thing for me is that, when you teach, there's this real thing, you got to teach, spokespeople, whether it's a coach or a politician or a CEO or what have you, you want to teach them to be able to have a conversation, but sometimes say a lot without actually saying anything. And, Mike Tomlin is a perfect example of that. The problem, though, is that in 2021 and beyond, and it's been like this for the last 4 or 5 years, authenticity is really important. So you've got to balance up between not giving anything away and creating media, headlines and storms versus being authentic and doing something. So the other thing about Tomlin, too, is I don't know, maybe he's just thinking from a marketing perspective. You've got to sit there and listen to the full 20 minutes to try and get anything out of the interview, Well, I reckon he'd be very direct with the players, though.
That's it. I think it's the complete opposite. I think
reckon he's like, run it here and do this like A to B now. But on the media side, he just kind of like falafels on about everything.
So I listened to an interview a couple of weeks back, which was from March. I forgot which show or podcast show it was. But anyway, it was one of an ex-NFL player, and he had Colin on there. And Colin was talking about Ben back in the day and Tomlin, and he was just like, Tomlin away from the cameras in the locker room is so direct, it's not funny. It's complete opposite. So, and that's what you'd expect.
Yeah, like I said, I really do, love the coach. He's been there a long time, and he's had winning seasons. But it's always interesting to listen to him talk about the preseason stuff, and it's just really funny. And you can sometimes it gets a bit animated with the playoff loss and stuff like that, but they're pretty much stock standard, the same kind of answers. However, maybe the reporters and the media aren't doing a good enough job to get those questions out of him, or those answers out of him too.
But also, like, you got to think, there's certain things he wants to give away. There's other things he doesn't. You never want to. That's the thing, right? Let's say Deontay drops a bunch of balls, right? Drops a bunch of targets. You're not going to jump in there afterwards unless it was one that like literally cost them the game and really talk about that. Like if you're a player, you'd prefer your coach in the film rooms and the following week or the next day when you're watching, the replays and stuff, to sit there and go, hey, let's work on that. Or, we really shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have been in that position, or you should have been watching for this. Like the coach needs to be able to have that conversation first with the player in many respects. So I get having to address certain things, but there are other things. And also there's the pump up too, right? If let's take Alex Highsmith last year and the great job that he did. And I know his dad was on with the Scobros this week. That was fantastic. And, really excited, to hear Sam talk. But you take someone like Alex Highsmith, for example. If he's playing really, really well and Tomlin goes out there and goes, oh, he was the best defensive player on the field for us today, or, he's the one that's emerging as the best. Immediately, he dials up the pressure on the player. Mm-hmm. Equally, it dials it up for the other team to go, hey, we've got to go target him. Now, that could be helpful because when you got TJ Watt on the other side, fine, how are you going to deal with them both? But you see what I mean, though, the point in that, sometimes you don't want to put players on the map, whether it's a negative and a positive. Sometimes you just want to keep it even keel. And, Mark, you and I are Manly Seagulls fans. We're always known as, they've our coach Des Hasler of, flying under the radar, even when Manly are the top team in the comp, and on top of the ladder and they've got the best record in the league, he was still saying, oh, we just want to keep flying under the radar. And it was like, mate, you're not flying under the radar. Everyone's pretty clear about where you're at.
The best hair in the business.
The best hair in the business. He and Tomlin are quite similar. He and Tomlin are quite similar if you make a lot of comparisons. But that whole flying under the radar piece, that whole siege mentality, that's something that I think they want to feed. And I think that relates into what Tomlin puts into those press conferences. So
who's that player, Matty? That coach who said, we want winners. Who was that guy? I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
We want winners.
Do you remember that guy that the live chat might remember his name? It was a coach who came out, was it the San Fran 49ers coach, and they were losing or something, and he came out to a press conference and said, we want winners. Like, we want players who want to win. Like, he came out and did exactly the opposite of what you're saying.
I like the Dan Campbell one when they interviewed him this year, and he was talking about biting off kneecaps, and you're going to knock us down, and we're going to bite off your other keycap, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And I was like, hell yeah, like I'm up for that.
Is that a bit too far-fetched though, or like?
I like the passion of it. But as well, you can't have in some ways a coach every week in the national media coming up and going, we're going to bite people's kneecaps off. I mean, that gets a bit ridiculous, particularly if your team doesn't do well. That's the other thing. Like, you think about Tomlin and the Steelers, right? A lot of being a Steelers fan, half the fan base just hates on the team the whole time. I mean, we're about to talk about my what the heck 5, right? Which is really hating on the team, or hating on some players, right? So if you're Tomlin and you're sitting there going on about this or going on about that in the press conference, you're just fueling that fire. Like, Tomlin's in that situation. It's one of those ones where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Yeah, and it was I just looked it up. It was Mike Singletary who came out after the game and said, we want winners. And he was full. But like, that's another thing where he hasn't got control of the locker room, but he's trying to appease the media. And then his team's going, Coach, what are you talking about? We're trying our hardest, or there's a big disconnect there. Whereas Tomlin kind of, I know that Tomlin we know it. This team's a great team. It's a good franchise. He's been there a long time. We know that he's very direct with the players. We know that he has a very special relationship with the receivers, the running backs, the defense. He's very personable to each and every guy. And a lot of them would treat him like a father figure as well. Coming up now into Father's Day in America, and they see him. They don't want to let Tomlin down. They want to play for themselves, but they don't want to see Tomlin cross his arms and say, what's going on. I got to bring up Ryan. It's all fun and games until a player actually gets a kneecap bitten off. Wow. Yeah, wow. Oh, that'd be a penalty. That'd be a flag, wouldn't it? Surely. Oh, mate, it just brings up those John Hopewade memories. Oh, we can't even say that on YouTube. That was too. He's by the way, he's an NRL player, but what he did was just as a player for Mark and my the NFL team, the NRL team we support, and back in the 90s, was it 90s or the 2000s? Or the 2000s? 2000, and it was very hard to be a Manly Seagull fan because the way that he played the game was quite interesting to say the least. Yes. Let's just say there was an incident involving buttocks and his digits. Anyway. Yes. So we better get into it because Frank's saying, "G'day, mate. Where's all the 4X?" Oh, I thought he was saying, "Where's the what the heck 4?" But no, it's what the hell 5. 4X. But we're, but yeah, we are. I don't know about you, Mark. I'm going to assume that you don't stoop to that level of the 4X. I'm not a 4X drinker. That stuff's
The only way I have 4X for beer, it's got to be really hot. Like it sounds kind of funny, but it's a mid-strength beer. It's kind of nice, but you've got
Queenslanders drink it. We're from New South Wales.
Yeah, you have it. I wouldn't choose to go and have it, but
I'd reject it. I'd rather not drink.
Really, if that was your last drink, there they wouldn't.
I could do my what the heck 5 of alcoholic beverages, but also that Strongbow. Have you ever had that Strongbow cider? That stuff is awful.
I'm not really a cider drinker. I try and do beer or do Jack Daniels and stuff like that. But I've had 4X before. It's something they sell when you go to the horse racing or something like that. They sell it for like $5 or $6. Really really light beer. Not a big fan, but if it's there, I'll have it. But if you're saying it's actually, this goes into our what the hell 5. Like for me, I like these players and I will watch them, but you're on the other side. You're like, nope, I don't want anything to do with them.
100%. All right, Mark, you're dying to ask me. Let's crack into the what the heck. Okay,
let's go. So what the hell 5? It came in last week. I just want to know. Let's go through what was the list, Matty. You've got it written down, and we'll go through the player and we'll just understand where your thoughts are coming from and why. Do you see them part of the team, or what's your overall thoughts on them? Who's the 5, so we can remind our listeners so far?
Right. So the 5 are Derek Watt, Marcus Allen, who we talked about last week a fair bit, Henry Mondo, Cassius Marsh, and Jalen Samuels, who we also talked about a bit last week. And then I think, Mark, let's confession time for the listeners. When we were talking before we went on air, and we were playing who my what the heck 5 are. Obviously, I kind of bundled Ray Ray with that to a degree. He's not bad, so I'm not going to put them there. But then there are some fringe players like JC Hassenauer who I really could put in my what the heck 5 as well. So the what the heck 5 might be expanded upon throughout the season. But yeah, we'll talk about the 5 players of Jalen Samuels, Cassius Marsh, Henry Mondo, Marcus Allen, and Derek Watt.
Yeah, so let's jump into it. Why is Marsh part of your 5? Do you see him with the team? Is it because his previous history being a player on other teams he didn't do so well? Is it the Pokemon cards? Is it the tattoos that look like an abstract art? What's going on? Why is he part of this?
So I would love him to do well, right? I would love the Pokemon King to do well. I would love like the tattoos and whatever. Like you stood on the side of field, I'm like, this has got to be the character. We're talking about a guy though, or I could do the Chris Collinsworth. Now here's a guy, like he's played on 7 teams, right?
I thought so. He's a journeyman, right? He's been around the league.
He's a journeyman, not a problem. But he's played on 7. He's played 7 teams, right? Going back to 2014, 92 games he started. In that time, he's literally achieved 5 forced fumbles, 14 sacks. So he's actually got more sacks than I'll give him credit there. He's got more than what I originally thought he'd been able to do over the course of his career. But we got 29 quarterback hits. I mean, these are stuff that and obviously a TJ is one of the best in his position, or I think the best in the league in his position. But TJ can do that in one season. There are 10 guys in the NFL that can do that in one season, what this guy's done in a career. And I just see it at the age that he is he actually going to get any better? And if not, should we be trying someone that's developmental, or should we be spending double the money on a key position like pass rush on someone that can be proven? And that's the thing with him. Even on a minimum contract, I'm just like, what's the value in it? And I think that's the lens. And I did kind of talk to this before I said the what the heck 5 last week. That's the lens that I look at a lot of these players, even Ray, for example, are they holding a position that we could put someone to develop in that role in? Now, agreed. Then that brings up the question, do you have someone available that you want to develop in that role? Completely fine, right? And James Galway brings up Quincy Roche. Exactly. But if you listen to the curtain call this week, and I'm the biggest fan of Quincy Roche, I pretty much said Quincy Roche in the first war room before the draft, that when we switched it from cap room to war room, I think that was a good 12 weeks ago, but it was my first show that really looked at draft players, and I said we should draft Quincy Roche, and then they drafted him, right? I thought that I needed to use a third or a fourth on him, but they didn't have to, which is great because I talked about needing to get Kendrick Green. But Quincy Roche might not be ready quite yet. And equally, we can't just have one backup at the outside linebacker position. We need two, right? Because you think about it right like this. In 2019, when Ben went out with the Seattle Seahawks, look what happened at the quarterback position. What if who's to say, and touch every bit of wood we can, who's to say TJ Watt doesn't blow a knee in week 8?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
and then
I agree with you. I agree with you. So firstly, I agree with the Marsh one. I agree completely what you're saying. So you just said there he's played 92 games and he's got 15 sacks. That's 14. Pretty below. There you go. That's pretty below par. 7 teams. Why did the Pittsburgh Steelers pick him up?
He started 9 games. He's started less than 10% of his career.
Is he just a camp body? Even last year, why did he play in that Browns game? There has to be something to this guy, but to the fan perspective, I'm very confused why they did bring in Marsh. Like he's a veteran, I guess, because he's been around 7 teams and he played this many games, but he's not getting the results that we need for our Steelers. And a good point with the Mason Rudolph example, when Rudolph came in, everybody was like, "Oh my, we miss Ben. We understand that when Ben throws a nice 45-yard pass and it's on the sideline and it's on the money, he's doing all the right reads. And then Mason comes in and we're like, wow, it's a massive difference. So Marsh, I agree with. I agree with you there. I think a lot of Steeler fans don't overly know, and it doesn't even look like a Steeler. I don't know, maybe because he's been around so many other teams as well. And he's got that capoeira, kind of cool kick. But how many times has he done that? Only 14 times when he's got to the quarterback. So,
I just worry. It's his birthday is in literally a week's time, right? Literally a week's time, and he'll be 29. Do we really expect it to get better? And this is the thing. So yeah, that's me for Cassius Marsh. Who do you want to tackle?
Same as Anthony Chickalo. They're pretty much the same kind of.
But at least Chickalo, I got no time for the guy if the allegations about him are true. But Chickalo was a 5-star recruit and an absolute athlete when he came out of college, right? He hasn't been able to work and translate that to the NFL, and I think there might be an attitudinal thing there, right? And look, good on Cassius Marsh for making his dream alive. I'm not saying he's the worst player in the league. I'm just saying for the depth that we need at the 3rd string or the 4th string outside linebacker in a defense like that we have at the Steelers, he doesn't cut the mustard.
Fair enough. Let's keep on defense and let's go into Mondo. Now, the reason that I liked him, which is basically his name, I like his.
He's got a cool name. I'll give him credit there. He's got a
cool name, and I think he did 1 or 2 good tackles last year and maybe helped the game in that. But he's part of your 5. Why? Yep. What are your reasons that why is he with the Steelers, and why does it boggle your mind?
So firstly, I'll just say Steelers fan 36 in the live chat. Nope, Slinging the Slang's still coming up, and we've got a good one coming for today.
Matty, you still there? We might have some, again, technical. You still there, Matty?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, did it freeze again? What's going on?
I don't know. All
right.
There was a lag to start the show. So, look, the thing about Henry Mondo, and this is going to sound odd, and I don't know whether people got that when it just refreshed on everyone then, but the thing about Mondo is, he's only 280 pounds, right? At the Steelers' defensive tackle position, we need a 300-pound plus guy. And would that make him any slower? That's the question for me. Does that then make him much slower? And if it does, then fine. But, look, he's only really played last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played in 11 games. There's 1 tackle for a loss, 2 quarterback hits, whatever. I don't know. I've not ever seen him on the field and go, I'm hugely inspired. I don't think he's that versatile across the line. I'd prefer them to give those sorts of snaps to a Wormley or a Davis or a Bugs, someone that's come out drafted. I'm not a fan of him. I'm just not a fan of him.
And the big thing as well, he plays behind Stephon Tuitt, and if he's meant to be the depth piece there, does it go from an A+ to a C+ or maybe a D?
It
so
goes
when you
to
do
a
those,
did not even try.
really, wow. See, I don't know if I have an opinion on Mondo yet because I haven't seen too much on
The
him.
thing about Mondo that might be unfair from me is that he might. I don't know. This is the thing because he's never really caught my eye on anything, right? But he probably does stuff on special teams that I'm not giving him credit for.
What about that lead block he did for the running back that might have been Benny Snell on the edge or whoever it was? You remember seeing that? That was pretty cool to see, right? Maybe he just needs more opportunity to play, and maybe he might be one of the breakout stars.
Question though. If he's doing that lead block, right? Now, what might have been injured that game, right? But if he's doing that lead block, why don't we have an offensive lineman that can do that block? Why don't we have a fullback that can do that block? Why don't we have a tight end that can do that block? Like, there's lots of other explanations before Henry Mondo needs.
We'll jump into what, and I'll bring that up next, like you said last week. As Owen David says, what does Derek Watt do?
What does he do?
Yeah, what does he do? You got to tell me. I want to understand why. Like, it's hard to say, but what? Because you said it last week, right? And I was like, well, Watt's one of our fan favorites because he's like the brother of TJ Watt, and he's meant to be this, menacing fullback, great special teams player. And then you said straight after, what does he do?
But so what does he do?
Will he be part of the team?
This is the thing. I would rather pay TJ an extra $2 or $3 million a year and have that, and have TJ going absolutely nuts than paying to have his brother because that supposedly makes the contract better. Now, look. As I said this before, Derek Watt makes sense to spend that much money if he's perfect on special teams and he plays every game because he's on a cheaper deal than what Matakevich was when Matakevich went to the Bills. Then the Bills love him. And Matakevich is still, got a lot of support amongst our fan base. I was a fan. I just didn't think we needed to pay him $5 million or so a year, whatever he's getting paid. Derek Watt, though, right? And Tyler Matakevich at least could play in some schemes in the linebacking core, in some schemes. He could play it better than what Derek Watt makes a contribution at fullback. Now, when Rosie Nix wasn't injured, he didn't do that bad for the Steelers in terms of what we had. And obviously he had Le'Veon Bell there that, could make him look good as well. But really, like Derek Watt, you'd expect a fullback to do some sort of running or some sort of catching. He's literally never, he doesn't even have 50 yards on his career yet. Not even 50 yards.
For running the ball?
For running the ball. He's only got 152 in receiving. So it's not like you can say, oh, yeah, but he catches it out of the backfield. He doesn't. He wasn't healthy last year. And I agree. That was brought up in the live chat where, like, Feekner does not know how to use him. He probably didn't have the right running back for it to make sense either. But I'm just not a fan.
We paid quite a lot of money for Watt, didn't we?
Yeah, and bonus too. So money that you're not going to get back. Like, I mean, he's got an average rush yardage of 2.6 for his career.
Right. So yeah, the question is here from Steelers fan 36, and I was going to ask it as well. Who do you think would play better in our system? Roosevelt, Nix, or Derek Watt?
Nix, but they both have the injury issues, and Nix is too old. I'll give you this as well. I talked about it in War Room this week. If you go onto Pro Football Reference, they have this approximation value metric, right? Which is not, it basically ranks players, and you can kind of determine where people are sitting in their Hall of Fame race, right? So in a good season, right, let's say if the Steelers make the playoffs and get to a championship game, Ben will be like a 17 or what have you, right? Like Claypool last year, I think was a 7, for what he did. Derek Watt has the full sum of 1, an approximation value of 1 for his entire career. That's less than what most people have in a season. Even a Cassius Marsh would have more, right? Like Marcus Allen, who we're going to talk about, his approximation value is 4, right? That Derek Watt has literally done nothing in his career. And if we think it's going to start now, I think we're kidding ourselves.
So you don't think this year he'll be used as a fullback more, and he'll get those, massive defensive guys out of the way and put his body on the line? Will he make the team? Like, how does it happen for what?
Oh, he's going to make the team in a TJ Watt contract year. He's going to make the team. He's going to make the team. The best we maybe hope for is he gets injury and then like you put him on in an injured reserve. And then I don't want to wish an injury on anyone. I don't mean it like that, but no. But what I mean is that like he's not a proper fullback, right? I mean, I'd be interested if he could block better, putting Jalen Samuels in that role. Can we talk about the H-back role and what have you? And he's someone we're going to talk about in a second. But we can't – this is the thing. We can't have passengers. If we want to go to win a Super Bowl, we need players that are going to make contributions and that, they talked about in the preview a couple of days ago about gambles and bets and what have you. I love a long odd. Believe me, I love an underdog and I love a long odd, but I don't love Derek Watt at a long odd.
Right. Do you want to go into the last two players or save it for
part two? Let's Oh, well, you know what? We might call a halftime. We might call a break between part one and part two. Time out. Give ourselves a quick sip of the water. But, yeah, that wraps up Steelers Touchdown Under part one for this week. Join us at part two. We've got Sling and the Slang. We're going to wrap up the What the Heck 5. We're going to take Q&A. We might even make a couple of predictions if we've got a chance to make that time. If you're on the listening live right now, those awesome listeners, everyone's an awesome listener, but really enjoy the guys, and guys and gals being able to participate in the live chat. Just hold tight for 10 seconds and we'll be right back with you. And we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell. I'm joined by my co-host, Marky D, Marky Davison. Mate, we got through 3 of the What the Heck 5 in part 1. Now time for the last 2.
Hey, look, so I agree with you, Marsh. I don't know why he's there. With Mondo, I'm undecided on how I feel with your opinion. I don't really know what he's going to do. I don't know. I'm going to leave that one just plain. Now, with the Watt one, I really want him to be good. I really want him to be that fullback that runs people over, but I don't know as well. I don't see his role or what is happening in that position until preseason comes around and until we see the first few weeks happening. What's that one? I want to be the fan favorite who grabs that ball or leads Najee, and you can see him knock out a linebacker. That's what I want to see as a Steeler fan. So for now, I'm agreed, undecided, and not sure.
That's the thing. Don't take any of this as, I hate these players. I want them to do well, and I hope they have a crap career. That is not what I want. I want them to do really well. I'm just saying we got to start being realistic on some of this stuff. Like, the best one, right? It's the one thing I will take, and people can roll their eyes and shake their heads at me. But you take the Madden approach, right? One of the best things, if you're a starter player in Madden in the last decade, or whatever, you look up like how to run a good franchise. The first thing it says is do not make emotional decisions when it comes to your salary cap. Derek Watt is an emotional decision when it comes to the salary cap for me.
Yeah, Matty, you'd be like, you're cut, he's cut. Hey, come here, Watt, oh, you're cut. Everyone's cut.
Trade, see you later, get this guy, get that guy.
All right, let's get into the last 2 then. So we have, I'll leave, okay, we'll go on to Marcus Allen first.
Well, we talked a lot about him last week. I just don't think he's done anything. I think he was a player that could be used in college. I'm yet to see whether he's actually going to do anything, as a linebacker. I don't know what he's weighing in at. Last season, he weighed in at 215 pounds. He's going to need at least 15 to 20 more for that. I still don't think he's as fast as a Buddy Johnson or obviously a Devin Bush. I don't even think with Spillane as well. I just don't see the role for him. We talked a lot about him last week. Just not a fan of what he's done. He hasn't done anything that proves to me that he should get this extra stay in the Steelers. And the only reason why he's hanging around is, he's cheap and he knows the system.
Exactly. And then he's similar. He's pretty much will make a break now. Got to do something. If he doesn't do anything, he might be off the roster next year. Very, very much so a string player. And we want to see him get big interceptions or like crazy plays and really help the team and become that guy but I don't really think that any Steelers fan at the moment is going to buy a Marcus Allen jersey. Our last player in your
actually, Brian Anthony Davis might though, because he loves to buy jerseys that no one else has.
But he's got everyone. He's got Berry in home and away, and Bumblebee. He's got jerseys all over the shop. Let's go into Jay Samuels. He's part of your 5 as well, and I'm intrigued to see. Before I get your thoughts, I want to understand where does he fit in this running back roster? Will he make the team? Is he a part of the 4 running backs, and how does he fit in?
Well, this is the thing. I would have said yes in terms of and how is you going to be used with a Matt Canada offense and having experience with a Matt Canada offense. And then you hear the stuff. Then you hear the stuff around Kalen Ballage or whatever it is, right? And apparently he's done pretty well. Equally, Jeffrey Benedict pointed out last week, I think in the live chat when we covered Samuels from looking at the 2018 draft pick. So we'll leave a bit of the, people can go back and listen to that to a degree. But he was sort of saying that Samuels looked like he checked out a lot. This is the thing for me with Samuels, and it came up with Derek Watt there before. If Samuels put on a bit of weight, and I don't look at his. It's hard because I haven't been able to look at his blocking much because he's not really played that much on the field. Like he's playing these short catches.
Yeah.
Or it was the game where he played against, was it the Patriots or the Panthers where he had all those yards?
Patriots, he ran him over. He got 100
right.
and something yards.
Right.
Yards.
Like, and that's one game. You can't really go off that. But like, if he could block better, I'd be interested in him making a switch to fullback. But I just don't think he's not going to develop what we need in Steelers. But that's not to say he's a terrible player. I could see him in some offenses doing very, very well. Now, I don't just pick a team off the top of my head there because it depends on who they've got and what they're going to do. And a lot of teams are going to change, I feel, with this offseason and different draft picks. And you've got a bunch of new rookie quarterbacks like you do any year, but there's a lot of rookie quarterbacks that will potentially start some games this season in the NFL. I think he'll get picked up by someone else. I thought he would have been tradable maybe last year. You're probably not going to get anything more than a 7th for him now, particularly, as we lead into cuts and camps and what have you. Look, he's not going to surprise me if he's there, but I could see him being cut. As I said last week, when you look at the tight end role, if you just decide with him, okay, we're going to make you a traditional H-back and you're going to be listed as tight end number 3, I'm all for it, right? Because I don't believe in Raider or I don't know, he's a decent blocker or Dax Raymond, Zach Gentry. He doesn't even want the heck 5 because as far as for me, he's off the roster anyway. So from that, I think Jalen Samuels, if you're going to listen there as a 3rd tight end, fine. But then again, why wouldn't you go and spend maybe another $500,000 maybe and go get like Jesse James or go get another proven player? So for me, this goes back to what's kind of the point?
I just don't know where he fits on this roster at the moment. You bring in Najee Harris at the running back, so he's number 1. You have some investment in Snell. You have quite a lot of investment in McFarland too, or he's going to be a potential good running back for the future, or you want him to be the 3rd guy or that speedy guy. So you've got 3 players there already. And then you have Samuels, who's entering, I think, his 4th year, as we talked about last week. And how does he fit this team? Can you be the 4th running back on the team and still be productive and, do some great things with this team? I'm not too sure how that works out because where are the carries going to come from? They give Najee the ball 70% of the time or 60% of the time, which we probably think is going to happen. Snell's going to come in for the goal line, and McFarland's going to be that 3rd down back. I don't know where Samuels now comes into the picture. And he's not really that change of pace back kind of guy. I more see him as a 3rd down, maybe a blocker, or he could be on the receiving end on the outside, and he can be that sneaky guy that gets out the backfield in a few yards. But I just don't know. It's obviously it's going to make him compete more for this job, but how many carries can he get? I don't really see. There's a spot. So he might not even be on the team this year. I could see him getting cut and then having, even Ballage there. I don't know too much about him, but you still got Snell, McFarland, and Najee Harris in front. It's a very tough spot to be Samuels this year.
Yeah, and look, you'd say I was Steelers fan 36 says Steelers will have good backs with Ballage, Snell, and McFarland. I'm going to make a prediction here as well. The third or fourth back, whatever its ranked is, isn't even on the Steelers roster right now. You look at the cuts that are going to happen in different veteran ones, as different veteran running backs and what have you. There'll be people around the league as you go in. There'll be people that surprise in camps, and what have you. I actually think, and there could be guys that went undrafted that then have not really sunk in with the team that's, pulled them in as an undrafted free agent. I honestly think there'll be someone in the running back room that did not participate in OTAs, mini camps, and may not have even participated in training camp with the Pittsburgh.
Well, that's the thing as well, because you even said with Samuels there that even though he's competing for the Steelers, he's also competing for the NFL too, isn't he? So you got to put that on tape. So these players know that they go to training camp, and you got to buy into the franchise, and you got to be a Steeler. But if you're on the outside looking in as that fourth guy, fifth guy, you've got to think, okay, I'm putting on some film for other teams if they need a running back or if they need a specialized blocker, or like in your case with Watt too. So I understand what you're saying. I think I know that Harris is going to be there, Snell's there, and McFarland's there. I think those top three are there.
I heard that Harris isn't going to be there.
Okay, mate. What? Yeah, just shake everything up. No way. Okay, Harris will be there, right? So it's 1, 2, and 3. Would you agree that Harris, McFarland, and Snell are there? The 1, 2, and 3.
Well, I'm just going to say it's Harris, McFarland, and I can see them keeping Snell, but I could if someone came in with a trade offer for him, I think you got to consider I'd take a fourth or a third for him. I'm 100%.
Would they trade like a draft pick, right? So they wouldn't trade Snell for another running back. Would they trade him for a defensive guy or somebody else?
Yeah, I don't even think it'll be a player. I think it's a draft pick. But if I mean, put it this way, right? I would trade. It was talk if I would trade Edmonds and Snell, and I've got to check the cap numbers for a May, right, off the Jets, Marcus May, the safety. I would make that trade every day of the week. And I think if Steelers fan wouldn't make that trade, I don't know why you wouldn't, right? But I don't know. I just with Snell, the thing is, I don't want them to trade him. I think he's good on special teams. I think he can offer a lot there. I think he's a great guy to have it as a third or as a second option if you want, that short running game. But as I'm saying, if there's a big injury to another team and someone's a fan of Snell, or there's a coordinator that's got experience with him or a player like him or what have you, I see a world where he's not there, but I do think he will be with the Pittsburgh Steelers this year.
They definitely need some running backs to back up Harris, because you don't want Harris doing all the workload, right, and then having a break, and then the second guy or third guy comes in and they run nowhere. Well, that's going to be on the offensive line too. But I would just hope for Snell to get 4 yards of carry, hopefully, and 2nd and 6, and then we go into a passing down and we can do stuff like that. But if Harris is going to do all the work, and then he goes say 6 or 7 plays in a row, and then they're down to the 30, and then he gets taken off, and then you go backwards with McFarland, or you go backwards with Snell, that's going to be a real kick in the teeth, because that Harris do all the work.
But the problem is, though, if you're going to create a offensive game plan and you're going to run your O-line to be very run-focused and very Harris-focused, yes, you want to change a pace in a McFarland, but you want someone that's going to be able to run it right up the guts in Benny Snell. So that's the thing I like, is that Benny Snell gives you someone to continue. Particularly, let's say the Steelers are up by a touchdown, or 2 touchdowns in the fourth. You don't want Harris taking every single one of those runs, right? You want to ease him off, particularly if he's had a lot of work in the prior 3 quarters. So by being able to bring someone like Benny Snell in, who's not afraid to, run it up the middle, I think is a really nice piece.
You want a closer. You want a guy to end
particularly when you don't have a fullback.
Yeah, well, there you go. If we don't use our fullback set as well, if we're just using the one back set. No, I agree with you. It's going to be very interesting to see how the running game plays out, because we know where we were last year in the 30 seconds. But you can't run the tires off Harris too much. But you need those guys the second or third guys to really have an impact as well. Otherwise, there's no real point to see what Harris did, unless he's running 75 yards for a touchdown every time. Because if he gets to the end zone and then we can't compete for the touchdown or with other players. But I would see as well with Harris being there, it's got a lot of spark up in some of these players and these running backs. Say, look, we're a duo, we're a tandem now, and let's really go as hard as we can. And then the defense is going to play differently as well to when they play versus Harris. And even the fact that he put Benny Snell back there, they still might have the Harris impact as well. I'm really excited to see how it goes, like just to see them run the ball.
Yeah, it's going to be, especially with like what we've got in this year's O-line. But, these actually lead really well into slinging the slang for this week. So, Mark, as always, we like to say, just as Big Ben likes to sling the rock, we like to sling the slang. Do you have some Aussie slang for the Steelers BTSC listeners this week?
Yeah, mate. What's the John Dory?
I don't know, Mark. You tell me.
You don't know what the John Dory is?
I do, but I just thought I'd humor you.
All right. So this week, I was scratching around to find one, and I went onto a few local websites on the old Google. And why do I go into an Australian accent like this? What is happening? I just pictured myself, hang on a minute. Did I just turn full bogan? I did, because we're trying to figure out what's the John Dory with our Steelers. Now, if anyone can pick that up in the live chat, or if you're audio and you're having a barbecue at home with your family, just ask them, what's the John Dory? So that's JOHNDORY. And when you ask them that, don't give them a response. Just let them think about it in their little head, say, what's the John Dory? Which really means, what's the story? It doesn't mean anything. Matt?
Yeah, it's like some of Australian accents is like, Australian slang is like kind of that Cockney thing, like the rhyming of the different,
yeah,
and like the code words. It's kind of like made it out from there.
It's unbelievable what we can get away with or what we say.
So I have 2 words for this week, and I was thinking about some sport terms. So number 1 we've got is a falcon, right?
Oh yeah.
So if I say, man, that player got falconed, or that's an awesome falcon, and you don't really get to see it that much in the NFL, but a falcon is, you might when a quarterback actually throws it to a player that's got his back turned, but a falcon is when you get hit in the head with the ball.
Yeah, we haven't got a term for that in the NFL, do we? And because it came from a player, Mario Finick, and he was nicknamed the Falcon, and there was one line drive pass that put him right in the face. It was one of those passes on the NRL where it was, we're distracted in the live chat, and it's Seattle was 2 losses. He wasn't paying attention. He was just walking up to the next play, and the guy balled a pass right into his face, and then it's called a Falcon. Awesome.
There's an awesome falcon in the rugby union, which has got the Waratahs versus Hurricanes. If you Google it, Corey James, and he was an All Black. If people have heard about the All Blacks, the New Zealand Rugby League team that have a better winning record than what the Patriots did in the 2000s. Anyway, they went to do this, like, it was basically in the same situation as a punt in the NFL. They were basically really close to their end zone. The player went to kick the ball, and the ball went about, it's very hard for the people on the audio side, but I'm going to say like a meter or 2 from the player's head was the distance of where the ball got kicked, and he copped the ball straight to the cheek. It was like one of those slow-mos you see in boxing where the cheek's like facing out the other side, and it was he just absolutely hit the deck like he just got smacked by this ball and he went flying. It's very painful, but also in some ways very funny to watch.
Super funny. We have a super chat here from Shield. Do you want to bring that one up, Matty?
Yeah, so Shield brings it up, and Shield's a great fan of this show and all the other BTSC shows. He messages me quite a bit on Twitter, which is cool. He says, "Hey mates, just got done with a 10-mile run and just joining in. Great Father's Day podcasts." Thanks very much, Shield. Always appreciate the super chat.
Shield, there. Do you want to go apply for the Steelers running back position? That's 16 kilometers. You know how far that is?
Yeah, but I heard that Shield is training for a triathlon, so all the best of luck there, mate. Like, that's a big effort. That's a real big effort.
I wouldn't even drive that. Wouldn't even drive that far in my car. That's a long way.
That's a pretty long way.
That's pretty far. That's like me. Mate. All props to you. I couldn't run 100 meters, let alone 16 kilometers.
That's an effort.
Miles. Jeez. On your shield. Jeez.
It's Cody. There we go. Thanks, Shield. And now I know your name. It's Cody. Thanks very much, Cody. Appreciate that one. Awesome there. And then the other one I got a double whammy this week, was the advantage line, or the advantage line, if you say a bit more bogan. So this is in some like both rugby union, rugby league, but the advantage line is when you make a certain gain. So in rugby league, you want to try and go 10 yards and what have you. But in rugby union, it's you making it past the line of defense. And I think it's pretty cool because in the NFL, we think of the line of scrimmage and getting past the line of scrimmage, right? But the advantage line, and I want some of the listeners out there to think about this as the season rolls on through preseason, Hall of Fame games. Start doing it, because I naturally do it because we grew up on rugby before I learned a lot about the NFL. But I grew up always thinking about the advantage line of how are you getting past that first line of defense. And so the easiest way to compare it, I think, in the NFL would be, are we getting 3 yards or minimum on a run play, or are we getting 5 yards or minimum on a pass play? And just think about constantly extending that offense and making an advantage and just rolling forward. Yeah. And in fact, probably in the passing game, it needs to be more like 8 yards. But it's just the advantage line you can think about as something like, and you kind of, in the NFL, you've got obviously your first down line, right? In your 10 yard, like the 10 yards you need to get. But think about the advantage line more on a play-by-play basis. It's just an interesting way to watch football.
It's like they say you want to be in front of the stick. So you're 1st and 10. You don't want to go backwards and be 2nd and 12.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to get a sackle and you'll be 3rd and 16. You've always got to be in front. And that's where last year with the Steelers, we didn't really do too much of that. We didn't do too much 2nd and 4s, and then we got ourselves in a bit of a pickle. And then Big Ben would either get us out of that by a massive throw or, I agree with that 100%. And that's what, you don't want to always go for the massive bomb down the sideline, but you want to move forward. And that's basically what the game's built around, isn't it, really?
Yeah. So you think about the advantage line, if we're going to put a metric to it, as like getting over the advantage line as somewhere between getting the first down and not getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. But yeah, I think you could do it 3.5 yards for a run and about 8 yards if you like, or 6 to 8 yards for a pass. But it's just something that naturally happens in my brain. And I was watching some tape the other day of the Steelers for a war room segment I was doing, and it kept flowing into my head, and I sort of realized I'd never really talked about that before. I gotta say though, it's funny. Shields told us his name Cody. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Daddy Daycare. I feel like this is like when Flash takes off his suit and then they're like, where's the Flash? And they think he's got lost. And then they find this kid eating a biscuit in the kitchen and they're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Tony. And they're like, oh, the Flash is Tony. You're the Flash. And he's like, no, I just want to be Tony now. I feel like this is the same moment.
I'm just saying, if he can run 16 kilometers in one go, head down to the Pittsburgh Steelers facility and sign up. You can take Ray McLeod's spot.
No, we're not going to go there. We are not going to go there.
He wasn't part. He was almost part of your 5, but he's a reserve. Let's put it that way.
I think he can do stuff, and I'll just say, I think he can do stuff in the return game. It's just as a wide receiver, I don't know what value he's offering us there. But look, Mark, as we're going to open up to live Q&A now for everyone that's across YouTube and Facebook, and obviously the guys on the audio side from podcast perspective are going to be listening to this back. But while people throw their questions in, Mark, do you have a prediction, just one prediction for a player this season?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to put it out there, and I think you'll agree with me. I believe that Presley Harvin will be our punter. I think you have to go with him this year. I think Berry. Look, I'm not a fan, but I appreciate him being Australian in the NFL. And he's done okay for us. But I reckon this year, and like many of us here, I think Presley Harvin will be the punter because just of his age. He's 22 years old. it feels to me in this Steelers this team organization, we just need something new. We need a fresh face in there. I don't even really care if Harvin punts the exact same way, if it's the same average. I just think you need someone new. What do you reckon? He's going to be one of them to make it, or he'll take Barry's job.
I think Shakur Brown starts 5 games.
Right? Is he going to be on the outside, or is he going to be more of a slot guy?
I think he's going to be more in the slot.
But isn't that interesting though? Because if they don't come out in that certain package, right, they don't technically have a start, do they?
Well, this is the point, right? So that's a very good point. I should clarify. That's actually a very good point. No, you're right there. I think he makes a meaningful contribution in 5 games. So he might not start if they come out in the right package. That's a very good point.
Didn't have it's so funny like that. Whoever's the first 11 on the field, they're technically a starter. Now always.
Well, it's like Ebron. Yeah, it's like Ebron and McDonald last year. McDonald was the starting tight end, but Ebron played the majority of snaps and had the better stats, right? So I mean, the same thing happened this year with Freiermuth.
Is there this might be a question? Is there certain contract abilities or money guaranteed if you start? Is there anything like that in the contract?
It might be more around rookie. It's probably if you're signing a deal based on that, then you're trying to kind of falling into a trap. I think it should be. I think it's often more done, or it should be done, or you'd be strategic to do it on a minimum base number of snaps.
Yeah, because I remember last year there was a guy who caught a pass from the Seahawks from Russell Wilson, and it guaranteed him $500,000 or $400,000. Now, in my mind as an owner, I wouldn't like my players to go and target that player for that reason, to get the ball and earn extra money.
But there are incentives, if you get over a certain number of yards or certain number of targets or what have you. There's incentive contracts, so it's not just always about starts.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's certain players, I know last year, because it was on Facebook and all over that kind of stuff, it was Russell Wilson went to this certain player who was a third or fourth string, got his yards or got his certain receptions, and he got paid more, which is cool. And it's great to be that contract. But then would players go out of their way to target that certain person to get them TDs, and would that cost the team, a wide open chance for a touchdown or to force the ball? That's what comes into my mind with these little things.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But go Russell Wilson for doing that.
Yeah, well, I know it's not a Seahawks podcast, but what's going to happen this year with him? Is he going to be a winner?
He'll stay, and then if they don't do very well, it'll be back to the same
because
conversation.
All the media around him leaving the team, and he's just come out and said, "No, I like it." I reckon they're a hard grit team, but they're not much without him, to be honest.
There's a question that was asked earlier in the show, and I did see it, but we didn't get to address it at the time, from Austin Russell on Facebook. And he said, are you scared they're going to overwork Najee Harris and Dwayne Haskins becomes our number 2? Oh, and will Dwayne Haskins become our number 2? That's a great question. We talked about this maybe 2 shows ago when I talked about the importance of managing snaps. That's going to be the thing, and this is why the Steelers have to be really clinical, because we don't want Najee having to do too much. And as for Dwayne Haskins becoming number 2, I think they're so invested in Rudolph. I think Rudolph has to be injured or something wrong has to happen. As Steelers fan 36 brings up, her prediction or their prediction is, it's hard to know on that one. It's just a Pittsburgh Steelers logo. Anyway, their prediction is that Mason Rudolph wins 3 games this season, solidifies the spot for next year's number 1. I can see that happening. So
I agree. We talked about last week. I think that Rudolph will play at least 3 games minimum. And with Najee, you just want the Steelers to be smart about it. They will. We're only 2 Aussie blokes talking from down under about the Steelers. We know what's going to happen with Najee. They're going to do great. They're going to have him in certain packages, and they won't overuse him to where he's running off his feet and he's getting super tired and can't be his best. No way. They'll put him in. They'll put him in the perfect place. They'll run him 70% of the time. They'll use him from the start. He's going to do awesome. He's a freak athlete, and there's a reason why they're so excited him for number 1. Even look back when we got Devin Bush at number 1 at 10, and now we have Minka. These are certain key players now that are just going to be like one of our guys, and we wish him all the success. And I don't think he'll be overtired near the end. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to wait and see. Just Me brings up useless trivia. Father's Day was started in her hometown.
There you go.
It's pretty interesting. And, fun fact in Australia, we have Mother's Day the same time as you guys, but our Father's Day is it's September, isn't it?
September 5th. It's always a week before the NFL. Every first Sunday, I believe, or it depends how the schedule falls, but the NFL normally falls around September 11th or 12th. It's always 1 week before.
Yeah. So,
but I did that on my the podcast for the Father's Day, and I think I think the reason is because we're both during our summer. So right now it's our winter, and it's your summer for Father's Day, and then coming into our spring will be our Father's Day. So that would be my reason. But our Mother's Days are exactly the same.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't know, but the same thing, like I said in my podcast too, Matty. Like we're so Australians and Americans. We should probably do something about this too. We're so similar, but then we're so different as well. Like we talk English, or I try to talk English, but yeah, and then we drive on the wrong side of the road. You know what I mean? Like we're so similar, but then we're not. It's just crazy.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, there's just so many things that are similar and so many things that are different, and it doesn't matter where you turn, there's always something different. Like,
have you tried going to America and then you look to, was it left? I can't remember, left or right, or whatever you look at, and then you come back to Australia and you get really tripped out because you're so used to looking left when the traffic's coming this way, but in Australia we've got to look right first, and if you do that wrong over in America, it's going to be a bad time.
My favorite thing is that in some cities in America, if you try and press the button and it's the traffic lights are going each different way, and it says wait, and I just stand there pressing the button.
I want to get that. I want to get that. Yeah, I should be that spokesperson for those. For the guy talking about the wait. Imagine an Australian accent in New York City. How's it going? You're free to cross now. Or something like that.
You call that a green? That's a red.
That's green. Oh man. We should trip them out. We'd be imagine if you and I were buskers and they thought we were American, and we just start singing in our Australian accent. They'd love it.
Mate, no, they would not love me. I am tone deaf. I cannot sing.
Oh, we can sing the national anthem. I don't know. I don't even really know it.
The lyrics have changed. But look, with that wraps up this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell. This is Mark Davison. Mark, as always,
go Steelers.